Hey folks, welcome back. My name's David and we're here in my shop in Mobile, Alabama. This is going to be the third installment in a series I have going, a how-to series on building this electric guitar. I call it the SR22. Now I recently found out that's also the name of a gun, but in this case it's the name of this guitar. I've built a few of these and I really think they're cool looking guitars and I like the way they look. Anyway, in this series we're going to be gluing the top on the back. We're going to be routing for the pickups, drilling the controls, and routing for the control cavity opening. And we're also going to be routing for the binding. Anyway, I just want to first say thank you to all those that have been following along and supporting this channel. And if you're new to this channel, you're into guitar building stuff or woodworking or other guitar related things, stick around. You might find something you like. Anyway, I'm going to set the camera up over here in another spot and we're going to get going. So before you glue the top on, you want to be absolutely sure that when you put the clamps on it, that you have perfect alignment on the seams. You want everything to look real good when the guitar is done. So what I do is, in this case, I'm routing those two pickup routes out later, so I'm going to use that as a spot to put a couple of indexing screws in. So I could glue up the body, put the top on it, put the screws in it, and I'll know it's well aligned before I put it in my clamp. So here I'm just lining everything up. I'm going to pop a couple holes in, put in a couple screws, and I'll be ready to glue. Here it's all lined up really well and ready to go. Alright, so here I'm gluing up the top. Got my favorite glue spreader out there. I'm just I use Titebond Premium. I think Titebond Regular is just as fine. I try to glue it up with a nice even coat, not too thick, not too thin. I don't want it running down inside the control cavity, especially the one that's already been painted with the shielding paint. I try to get a nice even coat on there. You want enough that you get a little bit of squeeze out from it when you put it in the clamp, but not so much it's absolutely running everywhere. I'm not so sure that too much glue doesn't harm the resonance or the tonal abilities of the guitar. So I'm putting in my index and screws. I'm going to check it, make sure it lined up good. Now I'm going to move over here to my clamp, slip it in my little handy dandy clamp I got, a little wax paper under it, tighten the bolts down. I always hit the corners first and then go fill in the rest of them. I suck them down with the wrench. That usually works out pretty good. Okay, so here I've let it dry for, it's been probably 5 or 6 hours, I guess. And I'm taking it out, going to see how it looks. Nice. Got some good squeeze out around the edge, looks good. That's just what you want. And presto changeo, here I'm at the router table. About to route off the top to match the body. I got my gloves on again. That could be kind of a scary tool, routing quite a bit like that. I take 2 or 3 passes, especially with some of these exotic wood tops. You really don't want to dig in too much, because if it catches that grain, it could rip it right out of there. So I'll probably go around at least 2 times, maybe 3 times. Just keep going until it's nice and smooth. Then I'll hit it on my belt sander after this too to smoothen it out really well. So that looks good. So now I'm getting ready to do my control cavity hole. In this particular guitar, I relayed out the controls from when I've had them before. You can see I got a single volume, a single tone, and a 3-way blade switch. I set those 2 controls on an angle. At the bottom they're about 2 1/4 apart. And I put the blade switch, the top screw centered on the bridge pickup, at an angle that's comfortable. So anyway, so now that that's figured out, I know exactly where to put my control cavity hole in the back. This is a StewMac template, and also laid out my control cover marking on that. And I try to line that up with the center of the back of the guitar. And I put it about 3/4 of an inch off of the the bottom edge of the guitar. That gives me enough room to route it and sand it and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so I got my template stuck on the back with some double-sided sticky tape, and I'm just going along in here and drilling it out. Of course, keep my vacuum close when I'm doing this, get all those chips out of there so you can see what you're doing. Nothing to it, I just drill, drill enough holes to knock out the bulk of it, and then I'll route it out with my router. Alright, now I'll take it back over to my router table. I got a top bearing flush trim bit in there, and I'll take out about just a fraction at a time, maybe an eighth or even less each pass, and I'll keep running it deeper and deeper until I got the whole thing cut out. Got a vacuum attached to that thing too, which is kind of cool. Sucks out most of the dust, then you got to still take out a little bit. There it is. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to cut out the hole, the recess where the control cover cavity will sit. So I've got a separate template for that. I make the cover about 3/16 of an inch thick, which is what that piece of wood is. I set the wood on there and then set the router bit so it touches the back. And when you pull it out, your router's set at the right depth. Now, if you remember, this back of the guitar is about 3/8 of an inch thick, so that's going to leave me around 3/16 of an inch of solid wood to run my screws into. Okay, so now I've got the template back on the top, and I'm going to drill for my potentiometers and my 3-way blade switch. I start drilling through the template with a 1/16 inch bit to find the perfect centers. Then I'll pop the template off and I'll put a 3/8 in there to drill the two potentiometers. And I think I go back with an 1/8 inch or maybe 5/64 for the blade switch screws. And I'll do the blade switch slot itself later with my Dremel tool. Okay, so now it's time to get ready and route the pickups. As you can see, I've got my pickup template back on the guitar, and I've got a 5/8 drill bit in there, and I'm drilling the pickup holes for this P90 as I do it 3/4 of an inch deep. So I'm going a little less than that. I'm probably drilling down a 1/2 inch or 5/8 so I can clean it up with the router at the end. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but I have a screw in the neck pocket location and the bridge location. I like to be absolutely sure this template's not going to move when I route it out. Since it's not getting a pick guard, one little bump with the router will ruin this whole guitar. Alright, so here I'm getting it clamped down to the bench. I've got it all drilled out, got the excess material out of the way. I've got my router here. It's got a 1/2 inch top bearing flush trim bit, and I'll set it at 1.5 inches deep so I can go 3/4 through the template and then 3/4 down into the body of the guitar. And for P90, that gives me enough room for the pickup itself, as well as a couple of nice springs underneath of it so I can adjust it good. So I hit both those holes, and like I said, I go 3/4 deep, and I didn't go quite that deep with the drill bit, so I'll clean up the bottom of the pickup route really nice with the router and make it a nice, smooth, clean hole. Okay, so I'm all set to route in my binding. I do this a little different than you might think. Maybe other people do it like this, I don't know. But anyway, this is the binding I'm going to use. This is a piece of 1/4 inch curly maple, 1/4 inch wide, and I can't remember how many, 60 thousandths thick maybe? I can't remember. But whatever it is, I buy it from Stu Mac. It's nice stuff. Anyway, so this is a carved top body, like I've been saying, and I'm going to route this binding in now. And I've got my marks laid out. What I do is I'm going to carve out 3/8 deep on the top of this body. Okay, so I measure down 3/8 and then 1/4 from there, And that is the 2 marks I got, and that's how I set the depth of my router, so that my binding is going to lay right in there. And when before I carve the top, I take my router in several templates and I cut down successively. I cut 3/8 deep, and then I raise it about a 32nd. I raise it I keep raising as I come up, and I get the rough shape of the carve. And that usually lands really nice right on top of my binding. So I'm going to put the binding on first, after I route but before I carve. And also I wanted to point out too that I route my binding before I cut my neck pocket, because these little parts here, when you cut that neck pocket in, this becomes so thin, I'm always afraid the router is going to push in and give me a bad cut. So I route my binding and then I cut in my neck pocket.
So I got my little Bosch router, and I've got the bit in it that comes, I bought it from Stu Mack. It comes with a set of bearings that you could change out the bearings depending on the thickness of your binding. It works really well. I route around and I go part the way up the area where the neck pocket goes, so I get beyond that, so I'm sure I'm routed all the way in. I just go around like that, and it cuts a real nice path. Of course, I always check the fit at the end to make sure I had a nice smooth cut, and it did.
Well, there you go, folks. Another exciting episode of eWar Guitars. I appreciate you all watching. I'm still trying to figure out how to get as much information in a short amount of time as I possibly can. So please put it in the comments how you think I did, if you like this particular format. That was probably several hours worth of work I tried to condense down to 10 or 12 minutes. And give you as much information as I can for all the beginner guitar builders out there, trying to show them the right path to go on. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. If you dig this sort of thing, how about you hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.